Hi, let's do a August wrap up. Hi, I'm Colleen Delaney. If you are new here, I talk about books and writing. In the description, as always, there will be links to sign up for my newsletter and for my books if you would like to purchase them down there. Today, I'm going to put a link for Finding His Mate, book 1 in my paranormal spicy romance series, and Waiting for His Mate, book 2, which is coming out at the end of September. And I'm also going to throw a link for Something Wicked, which I wrote when I was writing under the pen name Lucy Hudson, which is a total like fall vibes romantic comedy contemporary. Now let's talk about everything I read in August. First of all, I'm sorry. It's just like crazy sunny out, and though I can film without my glasses, it's like a little bit hard for me to see, so I'm going to keep them on, so I'm sorry about the reflection glare. In August, I did not read that much, so this is probably going to be one of my fastest wrap-up videos. I read 5 books, and 3 of them were romance, 1 was fantasy, and 1 was a thriller. So we'll just get right into it and start talking about them. I'm going to start by talking about the Durham Wolves series by Becca Jamieson. I read books 2 and 3 in August. I read book 1 in July. These are paranormal werewolf quick, like I think they're probably about like 200 pages novels that I really enjoyed. So the first one I read this month, which was number 2, is called Fire in the Smokies. And these take place in the Smoky Mountains, and I really like that setting a lot. And in this one, we have the middle Durham brother, Micah. And I really loved how this book started. I was a little worried when I read the description I wasn't going to like it, and I'll tell you why. So it says in the description that like Micah is looking for a lost firefighter and assumes it's a man. And then when he can smell the firefighter, is like, oh my God, that person's my mate. And I thought that this was going to have like maybe some homophobia in it, but it didn't at all. And I really liked how Becca Jamieson handled it, because mainly Mike is not the one that assumes the firefighter is a man. It's that like he gets like calls from the police, like over, like, I don't know what that's called, like those radios that emergency responders use. I can't think of what to call it. He gets a call that there's a missing fireman. The person says missing fireman. And so he shifts into wolf form and goes to look for this missing fireman. And he does smell this person and realize it's his mate. But his inner monologue is so fantastic because it's not like homophobic. It's mainly like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was attracted to men. I'm attracted to men? I've never been attracted to men before. Okay, well, I guess this is what's happening, and I better go introduce myself. And I really liked it a lot. Okay, so the firefighter does end up being a woman named Brianna. And I just realized I've been saying Micah, and it's Jackson. Micah is the brother in the 3rd book. Jackson and Brianna hit it off right away, and Brianna is super on board, super fast in terms of the whole mating thing, which I did kind of like, because not the same in the other books. But you have the same, there's this vampire that's like terrorizing the family. Super fun. Book 3 is called Freedom in the Smokies, and that one's about Micah, and he comes home from like a work trip, and his brothers have hired a woman to help with their horses, and he's really mad about it because there's this vampire terrorizing them, and he doesn't think it's a good idea to have like humans hanging around where they live. And then he meets her and realizes she's his mate. And her name's Caitlin, and she has just come from California. And there's a cool twist because she like, I forget exactly what happened, but she like notices, and she's like, oh my God, you're a shifter, because she has grown up on a farm that there were a lot of shifters who lived near her. So she actually knows about werewolf culture and all that. And that was really fun too. I had a great time with the series. It's like a solid, fun paranormal if you just want to like lose yourself in a world, and I love the Smoky Mountains as a setting. The next romance I read was To Marry a Scottish Laird by Lindsay Sands. This is book 2 in the Highland Brides series, and I loved book 1. I really enjoyed this one. I still like book 1 better. So in this one we have a couple of like really tried and tested and adored tropes. So Joan is traveling disguised as a boy, not a man, because she's like teeny tiny woman. No, she's very curvy. She has to like tie down her boobs every day. But she's traveling, and she like gets set upon by thieves who are like beating the crap out of her when Campbell comes upon them and just goes to like save this teenage boy who he assumes. And Campbell gets stabbed. And Joan doesn't want to leave him, so she stays with him and takes care of him. But like for the first week or so they're together, her face is so beat up that like he just assumes she's like 14-year-old boy because he can't see her face basically at all. Until one night he wakes up and she's gone and he sees her taking a bath in the river. And then he's like, oh, wow, that is a lady. And then they have one of those fun historical romance road trips in which they bang it out on the forest floor constantly. And then we find out about something about Joan's past and who she actually is. And we get some forced marriage trope. We get the road trip trope. There's always like murder in these, which I kind of like. Someone's trying to kill the heroine in all of these books. So we get that as well. Super fun. I have the third one ready for me in September. All right, so next I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Finally. People have been talking about this book forever. And I was at a bookstore in July, during my No Buy July, and it's a bookstore I used to work at, and some of the people working there were talking about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to buy this. Well, this is a super shiny cover, so the sun is really getting it. There we go. And I was like, well, I'm just going to buy this, and I'm going to read it. And it is as it promises. Very low stakes, high vibes type of story. Okay, so here's the thing. I liked this book, but because the stakes were so low and it really is like a very just like vibey book, I wasn't really itching to pick it up ever. Like it took me over a week to read it because I'd read a couple chapters and then I'd like whatever, go make dinner or something. And there wasn't that feeling of like, oh, I want to just like, I'm going to try to sneak another chapter in before I put the kids to bed. Or, oh, I'm going to stay up for 30 extra minutes tonight to read it. Because it was just kind of a quiet story. I did think the vibes were amazing. It did feel very much like just sitting at the Renaissance Fair, which I really enjoy to do. And I'm very sad I didn't get to go to the Renaissance Fair this summer, but it happens. And I don't think I'll read anymore because I know there's like a prequel coming out this fall. I don't think I'll read it. I think it was fun and I think it is what it's promised. It's very cozy. I just think that it needed just like a little bit more. Also, as a hardcore romance reader, there is a romantic plot line and I felt a little gypped in terms of payoff. So, but that's just me. I think if you read mostly cozy romance and not like the amount of explicit romance I read, you probably wouldn't feel that way. So for me, it was like, you know, a solid read, but to the point where I don't think I'll read anything else by the author. All right, and my last book that I read was The Bones of the Story by Carol Goodman. I'm a huge Carol Goodman fan. Love her. And she comes out with a book almost every year, which is really nice for me, and they usually come out in the summer, which is also kind of funny because her books' vibes are never summer vibes. They're always either autumn, winter, or like March when it's like cold pneumonia weather. But so this one is hardcore winter vibes. And if you are looking for a dark academia book to read this September, this is a good choice. This one has a little bit of a different feel compared to the rest of Carol Goodman's. So it's classified, I think, as a psychological thriller. I don't know if it'll say anywhere in here, which most of hers are, or a literary thriller. I'm sorry, not a psychological thriller, a literary thriller, which it doesn't say. But it feels very much like a mystery. So you have two timelines, which I love a mystery thriller with two timelines. One is present day, and one is 20 years ago, I think, 25 years ago. You have a group of people, and I'm like blanking on the main character's name right now. It's driving me crazy. I know her last name is Portman because the kids call her Dean Portman, but I can't remember what her first name is. She was a student then and is the dean of one of the colleges now, and she's our narrator. We follow in the past this very like dark academia group of friends. I've never read The Secret History, but I assume it's similar to The Secret History because it reminds me of like If We Were Villains, like all those friend groups. Which also, like, I'm going to interject right now. I majored in literature in college, and I went to a very not gothic looking college. My college was much more like light academia looking. I went to Villanova, and like my roommate was a classics and philosophy major, and we were all very like into literature stuff. We never did this kind of stuff that ended in murder ever, not once. We never did creepy stuff. We mostly just hung out and like watched nerdy movies. That was kind of our vibe. Okay, so 25 years in the future now, this whole friend group is back at school for this like dedication to their professor who died. Crazy stuff happened when they were younger. Crazy stuff is happening now. None of them, there's like a secret that happened when they were kids, and the secret is like coming back to haunt them, basically. It becomes like a locked room situation because there's a horrible blizzard, and they're in upstate New York, and all of the roads are closed. They're kind of trapped on campus, and they're even to the point like trapped in the building they're in, because a couple times they try to move buildings, it's like impossible to see. It had very much an Agatha Christie feel, which is the first Carol Goodman I've ever read with that, but I liked it a lot. I really did enjoy it. If you want something with good, spooky, dark academia vibes, if you like dual timeline thrillers, which I really do, then definitely pick up The Bones of the Story by Carol Goodman, because it's really, really good. And sadly, that is all I read in August. I did start some things. So I started the book How to Keep House While Drowning, which I am enjoying, and mainly is because like my house is a disaster. There's a reason you only ever see this, and I don't really vlog in my house. And that's partially because I have a lot of children, and they're just, I'm not a naturally neat person. And I do really like sort of the tips that the author gives in that book. I also read the first 60 pages of The 7-Year Slip, and I might finish that in September. I haven't decided yet. That's not like a review. It's just a lot of stuff was going on when I was reading that book, and it made it slightly unenjoyable. But I might eventually pick it back up. I started Striking Gold by Janine Amesta, which I finished in September, and I'll give you a quick sneak peek. I loved it. But you'll get a full review for that and the September wrap up. And I think that might be it. I read a little bit of The Prophet by Cahill Gibran, which I've been reading for months because I just pick it up and read a couple pages every once in a while. But I think that's it. I have much more stuff on my September TBR, and hopefully we'll read more books in September. But until then, thank you for watching this video. If you are still here, please drop me a sunflower emoji in the comments to let me know you've gotten this far in the video. I feel like it's like the end of the flower season in September. I grow a lot of zinnias, but there is no zinnia emoji. If there was, that would be my favorite emoji because it's my favorite flower. And we're winding down. We're getting towards our cozy weather, which is great for reading. As always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'll see you soon.